Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to MoonCon 2022. Very nice to be here. Fabulous weekend ahead. So many amazing speakers lined up for you guys and me, because I'll be watching them all. I've already learnt stuff from Julie this morning. Do keep with us. If you're missing out this weekend, you can watch the replays too, but it's always fun to mess about and talk to your authors and ask them questions they can't answer. She says, unhopefully. If you are watching, do pop a hello in the comments. I'd love to know where you are, who I'm talking to, who's watching, just so that I know it's not just me. Good morning, Jason. Good morning, husband, who's sitting opposite me. Is that it? Just the two of you? Good morning, Sephora. Oh, stayed up late with us. Good evening. Bless you. Good morning, Sue. Welcome, everyone. It's lovely to be here. Good morning, Sue, too. It's two Sues. Good morning, Jess. Jess is up later on as well. She's going to be talking about making your own lithomancy set. Lithomancy is fascinating. Good morning, Kerry. Good morning, Sam from just down the road. Good morning, boss man, Trevor. Good morning, Julie from York. Oh, we need to go back to York. Haven't been since I was a teenager. Beautiful, beautiful city. So welcome. I wanted to talk this morning about my latest book. I think we're up to book number 24, something like that. This one is The Element of Fire. Apart from the fact that I'm absolutely excited that I managed to get a woman in a top hat on the front of one of my books. I do love a top hat. Fire is my element. It is the sister book to The Element of Earth, which is already out. Water's being written, as is air. They'll all be out at some point, but I'm talking about fire today. It is my element. I love to burn stuff. Just because I do. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Dawny. Good morning, Annette. Good morning, Naz. Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. So, the elements of it, that was the dog. Eric wants to get in as well on the act. The elements are the foundation upon which all other things are made. The ancients divided the world into 4 basic elements: earth, air, fire, water. These 4 elements are vital to our survival. Without any one of them, we wouldn't exist. It's just the way it is. We use them in ritual. We use them in energy work. We use them in healing, spell work. We drink, we live, we breathe. They're all part of keeping us alive, basically. We are probably all individually drawn more to one element than the others. Annette, areas you think, that's funny, Annette, that is probably the element that I'm least connected to. And I think that is, we're all the same. We're all going to have one particular element that we're drawn to more than others, sometimes 2, but each element has its own unique characteristics, its own unique properties, and we can tap into those. They can all be used individually, or we can mix and match to add to the power. I do think having a balance of them helps. I mean, that's the dog having his blanket put over him. He likes to get in on the act. Good morning, Sasha. I think fire is perhaps a little bit different from the other 3 elements because you can't physically touch it. Well, you can, but obviously you'd get hurt. So you can't physically touch it without injury. It naturally exists in our sun. But we've got to create it here on Earth. So perhaps it doesn't quite have a natural home. But we need the element of fire to grow, to cook our food, to keep us warm in winter. So many different things. Jason always likes burning things. That's not a big surprise, Jason. Sephora says Eric's element is wool-based. Eric the Dachshund is in his beanbag at the moment under his blanket. Karen thought it was a magic trick then with a blanket. I think for me, fire is a big part of my personality. It's part of my magical name. I'm not a fire sign. I'm a Scorpio, so I am a water sign. So we've got a bit of a mix in there. I have had my sun sign worked out 3 times now, and each time I've forgotten what it is. So I think there's a message in there somewhere. It's just, brain. So fire is, for me, it's the element of action, it's passion, it's transformation, and it's change. And I'm one of those people that's okay with change. I don't mind the Tower card as long as it's not too hectic change. I like the Death card in tarot. I like changes. It's one of those guarantees, I think, isn't it, that there's always going to be change of some sort. But fire rules all forms of magic, because magic is the process of change. It's the process of transformation. Fire is destructive, and it consumes and destroys. And that has to happen before any kind of change can take place. Passion, the sacred fire, the spark of divinity, which shines in all living things, all associated with the element of fire. It rules transformation. I change my hair a lot. I change my outfits a lot. Never the same on any one day. It is the element of will. It's also fear. It's also anger. It's power, jealousy. But it's purification, it's energy, it's strength. It is achievements. It is life. It's also dance. And if anyone's seen me on the dance floor, that's the element of fire that's powering that. And I apologize now in advance or retrospectively. Zephora reckons fire is cleansing. I think it is. It is. You can cleanse and purify with fire. And that's got to happen before you can start anything new. You have to clear the decks before you start again. Annette says, volcanoes are the keepers of fire on earth. Perfect comment. But I think for me, it is the passion that drives me. It is the element that drives me. But it also rules physical things and places. So fire is your blood. It is the sap of trees. It's deserts, volcanoes, as Annette mentioned. It is the sun. And fires of all varieties, from simple candle flame, candle magic, to volcanic eruptions and explosions. It is in traditional witchcraft practices found in the direction of south in the ritual circle. It's associated with midday when the sun is at its highest and hottest point. And it's also, this time of year, it's the height of summer. You'll often find a candle on altars. I'd be surprised if you only find one on most altars. Most altars have lots of candles, but it is used on an altar quite often to represent the element of fire. I think early man would probably have only encountered fire when something was struck by lightning. Perhaps that's what sparked it off. No, sparked, no pun intended. So I think it would be fair to say that they would have thought it was something magical, sent to them from the heavens, or whatever it was they believed in. Now we use it perhaps more as a spiritual focus, whether that's a hearth fire, a bonfire, or a ritual flame of some sort. It is a central thing. Sam says, witches love a good fire. We do. We all love a good fire, that's for sure. What I want to kind of put to you today, and please do ask questions, put comments, insights, type them in the comments and we'll get them up on the screen. We'll get talking about them. I love a bit of interaction. So unless you want to listen to me waffle for the rest of the, whatever it is, 45 minutes, put your comments up. We'll see where it takes us. Put your thoughts, put your questions. But what I'd like to put to you now is we are used to bonfires. We're used to candle flames. We're used to burning stuff, popping it in the cauldron. But what about the elemental you? I did say earlier, most of us find that we're aligned with one or more element, perhaps more than others. It might be affected by a zodiac sign we're born under. And as I say, I'm a water sign. So water is the other element that I work with quite a lot. But it might also be affected by the type of work you do, the life you lead. But I think it's also affected by mundane tasks. All of those things have a correspondence to an element. Everything that you do on a daily basis. Lots of those things we can see as rituals as well. Brushing your teeth every day, having a shower every day. They're all rituals of some form, but each one of them corresponds to one of the elements. The more of those things you do in one element, the more unbalanced it becomes. So you can have a look at how you work and how you work daily with different elements and bring about a bit of balance if you want to. I think it is a challenge to create a balance in ourselves between all four of those elements. But I want to have a look at specifically the fire ones today because, you know, fire book, waving it around because I know that Trevor, the editor, is watching. Look, fire book. Look, earth book. Look, all my other books this side, all my other books. Right, that's the marketing done. So have a look and think, what mundane, everyday tasks do you associate with the element of fire? Just obvious ones first. I think cooking, because whether you are using gas or electric, you're using fire in some form. Barbecue, this right time of the year for barbecues, that you couldn't get more fire element than shoving stuff on the barbie. We don't let my husband do barbecues. It's just too scary. Let's get some of these up. Karen, Sulis is the perfect goddess for you, fire and water. Yes, I've been working with the goddess Sulis from ancient English goddess. Next book out, Gods and Goddesses of England. I have been working with her for several years now from the beautiful royal city of Bath. Do you use sun water for spells? Absolutely. You're probably all familiar with working with moon water. You put your jar of water out on a windowsill or outside to absorb the rays from the moon. I do the same with sun. And if you want more information, I've written a book about sun magic too. I put jars of water out under the sun. I like to do it under the midday sun because that's when the sun is at its height. So I charge the water with solar magic. And solar water is brilliant to work with in connection with the element of fire because you've brought the element of the sun into it. In connection with the element of water because you've made solar water. And it's brilliant for anointing, for cleansing your altar, for consecrating magical tools. Yes, thank you for that, Karen. It is a brilliant thing to work with and gives a bit of balance as well. If you've got moon water and you've got sun water, you are bringing those elements together. It makes for some powerful magic. Maria, I feel more balanced when I go out every day, so it's more or less a daily ritual. Some of us do have daily walks. We take the dog out most days, so that's a kind of ritual as well, and it's getting you outside. Jason, definitely drawn to fire more than the others. I've even got old scars on my arms from my bodybuilding life. Ooh, we need to see photos of that. Stretch marks. Now I like that, actually. Stretch marks could become fire marks. I like that idea. Everyone thinks I've been burnt. Yeah, we definitely need to see photos of that, Jason. But I like the idea of calling scars stretch marks. Yeah, you know, if you've had babies, you got them too as fire marks. I like that idea. Sam says, my moon sign is Leo, which brings the fire element to my emotions. They can be a very long burn, but when they explode, it's dramatic. Thank you for that warning, Sam. I will remember to duck. Just hiding. Kerry, how long do you leave the water out for? I trust my intuition on this one. What I actually tend to do, if it's midday, I might leave it out for half an hour, just so it gets that height of the sun on the water. But you can make all different sorts of water. As you would with moon water, you can make sun water the same. Put it out first thing in the morning, up to midday, and you've got yourself some waxing solar water. Put it out at midday and leave it out till sunset, and you've got yourself some waning solar water. But if you want to capture that real height of sun power, solar power, I'd leave it out for about half an hour at midday. It doesn't have to be long because if the sun The sun's pretty hot, let's face it. Might not feel it in England sometimes, but it will charge quite quickly. Oh, bless. The sun is in short supply in Scotland. It's still there though, because if it wasn't, it would be dark. So you might have to be, yeah, we're England, aren't we? Having heat waves isn't really a thing, is it? The sun's still there. It might be behind the clouds. It might not be, get your bikini and your suntan lotion out, but it's still there. So you can still work with it. Sephora, dragons and fire are a favorite. Kids always thought I was painting them for them. There is some dragon magic in the fire book. I love working with dragons. Dragon is part of my magical name, fire dragon. Amazing creatures to work with. But they are quite often associated with fire because a lot of them breathe the stuff. But if we come back to the mundane stuff, cooking, anything that's creative, and I know a lot of you do this, whether it's art, painting, drawing, sketching, crafting things, crochet, knitting, felting. There are some amazing crafters out there, I know, because I've seen your works. Designing of any kind brings in the fire element. For myself, baking, cakes, fire. You can add more fire element in. You can add any element in, really, with the ingredients in your baking or your cooking. But the actual act of baking, of crafting, of drawing things is creativity, and that passion that comes behind that creativity, which is all pushed by the fire element. That's where it comes from. So every time you are doing that, you're working with the element of fire. Decluttering. I know it's one of those things you feel you need to do on occasion, but decluttering I see as working with the element of fire, because you're clearing out. You are being destructive from a certain point of view. You're taking all of that clutter and you're getting rid of it. You're clearing, being destructive, so that you've got space. Whether you put more clutter in the space is up to you. But actually decluttering is all about working with the element of fire. It's clearing out. Music, if any of you are musical, you don't have to actually sing. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief when they hear that I don't have to sing, because that's scary. But listening to music, playing an instrument, music as a whole is all driven by the fire element. Dancing, professional dancing of any kind, or just good old dad dancing, or my own special blend of dancing. All of that is driven by energy, by passion, and it's all pushed forward by the element of fire. Driving, whether you're driving a car, a lorry, a tractor, or whatever it might be, that driving is all powered by the element of fire. Sunbathing, probably a bit obvious. And please put your suntan lotion on, because fire burns. So the sun burns. Basically, when you're sunbathing, you are frying yourself. I don't tend to do it, hence the fact I look like a vampire most of the time. English rose skin, it fades the tattoos too. But sunbathing, you can do it for a short while to absorb the energy of the sun. That's what I do. Or if I'm out gardening, I'm absorbing the energy of the sun. Just be a little bit careful with it. Jason's now going to send me photographs of himself semi-naked. Result. Annette, the spark of creativity and inspiration. Absolutely. That's the words say it all, don't they? It is the spark which makes you instantly think of that fire element, and that's what drives it. That's what pushes it all. Lighting a fire, whether you're lighting a candle, whether you're lighting a fire in your hearth or in the garden, the chimney, a bonfire, whatever it might be, just the act of striking the match is switching on that fire element, turning on the heating. And if you live in the UK, you're very familiar with turning on the heating. If you live in the UK at the moment, you probably don't want to because of the cost of gas and electric, but that simple switching it on is invoking the element of fire. And speaking as someone who does get cold, we have a lot of blankets and hot water bottles in our house. Turning on the light switch, light, it's all driven by electricity. It's all powered by the element of fire. So just switching on the light will bring in that element of fire. Plugging in any electrical device, phone charger, we've all got them. You're switching into the element of fire. Hairdryer, element of fire. Bring in the element of air with that one as well. But anything that you plug in that's got an electric plug on it, you are connecting with the element of fire in a mundane, everyday kind of way. This one's not personally for me, but workout or physical exercise. Not something that's on my daily regime, but working out, doing any kind of gym or running or any of the physical exercise, you are invoking the element of fire. You're putting that energy into your body, into your muscles. So you're bringing in the element of fire. I'm sitting here at my computer working with the element of fire because I see computers and laptops and tablets all as element of fire. And using your mobile phone, element of fire. All of those daily things, all of those mundane things all bring in the element of fire, and you're connecting with it on a daily basis, whether you realize it or not, without kind of thinking necessarily of anything magical, but you're still invoking that element of fire. Sam says, natural ginger, the sun is not my friend. No, not with your pale skin, but beautiful colour hair though. Have to use Dulux once, yes, known as factor 50. It is a bit, isn't it? It is like putting on emulsion. But natural ginger hair, then you've got the element of fire with you in spade loads all the time. But if we look particularly at daily chores and activities, I think it's interesting to separate them into elements and see how many more of them you work with compared to those that you don't. It's interesting to write a list and kind of balance it out to find out what you're working with more and what you're working with less. It's just a simple, interesting exercise to do with just have a look and see. But have a think outside the box on a daily basis of what that element is that you're working with. But fire in particular, as we work with positive and negative, sun and the moon, masculine, feminine, energy too has its opposites. It is receptive or projective. And the flow of energy for fire is unsurprisingly projective. Projective energy is often described as being masculine. It's heat. It's the summer. It's activity. It's outward things. It's physical. And it brings light. It also brings strength, healing. It's good for protection, but it's vitality and courage as well. And it has that big punch of power behind it. It's determination and willpower. I think I'm lacking in that one quite a lot. Self-confidence, luck and success all come under the umbrella of the element of fire. And we can connect with it in so many different ways. Just from the simple candle magic or the flame on a match, right up to when you raise energy in circle, you are raising energy in the form of the element of fire. But getting in your kitchen, cooking, creating, that's all the element of fire as well. You can think about it in so many different ways. Maria says, I find crystals that are warmer to the touch have that element in them. Interesting, yes. Which gives me a good point. Thank you, Maria. We're probably all used to, you've heard me say it before, I'm sure. We're used to putting all of our crystals out under the moon to charge, cleanse and charge them. I don't put them all out under the moon. I put some of them out under the sun because that sun is going to charge them with the element of fire. And I think a lot of them benefit more from the element of fire than they do from water and the element of the moon. Something like moonstone, clear quartz, blue agate, all brilliant under the moon. But things such as sunstone, citrine, carnelian, goldstone, I put those out under the sun so that they can charge and be cleansed and purified and charged with the element of fire. It makes more sense to me, which, as Maria says, if you often find that the fire element stones do actually have a warmth to them. Every crystal has its own individual personality and characteristic anyway, but you will often feel it. And Zephora says obsidian should be the element fire, comes from a volcano. It makes absolute sense, doesn't it? It is literally glass in some form. And glass I work with quite a lot as well. I work with sea glass quite a lot because for me that's got the element of water and the element of fire, because to make glass you have to heat it, and that's got it as well. So yes, obsidian as well, because that's what it is. So there's lots of different ways of working with the element of fire. The obvious one has got to be candle magic, which is possibly my favorite way of working magic. It is my go-to whenever I think of a spell. I go to candle magic. It's so simple to do with just a simple birthday cake candle, or any other amount of stuff if you want to add layers to it. But from fire magic, candle magic is the most obvious one. Sam says, I've used lava for grounding, but never thought of putting it under the sun. We'll try that. Lava in particular, it's in its raw natural state before it became solid, was fire. I guess you couldn't get more close to fire than that, could you? It'd be interesting to see how you get on, Sam. Definitely give it a try. Jason says, loads of sea glass at the beach where I live. Excellent. You don't find it on all beaches. It's not on any of the beaches near me. I have to rely on going on holiday to find it. But sea glass is amazing stuff to work magic with. But for fire, obviously candle magic. You can add to your candle magic in all sorts of forms by adding different layers of things, herbs, oils, petitions, all can be added to candle magic. But at its base element, it is fire. And it's that element that drives any of those magical spells. Burning is obviously another one that is obvious. One of my favorite ways to work with as well. Can simply be adding a pinch of herbs into your bonfire or into your fire pit. It could be writing your desire on a sage leaf, setting light to it from a candle flame, dropping it into a fireproof dish, obviously. Slips of paper can be written on, folded, set a light to burn. Herbs and twigs can be thrown into ceremonial fires or fire pits. There's the traditional Yule log is always burnt on an open fire. Burning things is a really good way of putting spell work into action by using the element of fire to make it happen. It drives it along. It gives that push of energy to send it out in the world to do its thing. So fire is, for working magic, for me, is a go-to. Sephora, using those blasted charcoal discs is very much element of fire. Fingers burnt getting them started. Oh, the amount of fun and games we've had trying to light charcoal discs in open rituals. I cannot even begin to tell you. If I'm at home, I take the charcoal disc in a pair of tongs, metal tongs, and I hold it over a flame. Used to be over the flame of the gas cooker, but I have an electric hob now, so I can't do that. So it's over the flame of a candle. But I find the tongs are essential piece of kit when you are trying to light charcoal discs. They are a bit of a challenge. Sephora, that's terribly dangerous. And how would I ever say that without a disclaimer? Setting alcohol on fire is quite fun too. Kids, be careful when you do this. Not without adult supervision. Adults, not without adult supervision. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. So burning is a really good way to work with the element of fire to set your spells in motion, because that's what you're doing when you're setting fire to any of the petitions, is putting that spell into action. It's using the element of fire to push it forward. One of the other things that I like to do is making a parcel. The basic idea came from a Peruvian shamanic tradition called a despacho. There's lots of despacho jokes about gazpacho and cold soup. If you're a Red Dwarf fan, you'll get where I'm coming from. Otherwise, ignore that bit. Basically, it's a spell parcel. So you get your sheet of brown paper or white paper or whatever paper you want to use. Newspaper would work well. And you put things in it that can burn. The contents are symbolic to the intent and the people involved. Contents do need to be biodegradable. They do need to be able to burn them without releasing nasties into the air. So herbs, spices, grains, sugars, leaves, twigs, seeds, flowers, incense mixes, feathers, or anything that will burn safely. And each part is put in as part of a kind of ritual ceremony. You cast a circle, call in the quarters, do the whole bells and whistles thing. Or you can sit quietly in your own space and create your spell parcel. Often I find it works for things you want to get rid of, bad cycles, bad habits. If you want to cut cords with people, that kind of thing. Charge each item as you put it on the paper, fold it all up, tie it with twine, burnable twine. Say a few last words to secure the spell, and then chuck your parcel into the fire. Let it burn. Let it take everything with it that needs to go. And it works brilliantly for all kinds of intents. But you can also work with scrying. I love to scry with flames from a fire. You can do it with a candle flame. You can do it with smoke as well, from incense or from a fire. I find that flames often have more to say. There are more images, more signs that you can see in there. I do find that flame scrying can be a little bit unpredictable because fire as an element is a little bit unpredictable. So it takes a little bit of practice, but just staring at the flames in the fire or a candle flame, having asked a question, and you can often see symbols and signs within those flames that will give you answers. Zephora says, could you sigil up your steak, flambe it with intent, and then eat the magic? Now I'm really hungry. Absolutely. I love where you're coming from with that idea. You could draw sigils on any type of food, really, couldn't you? Burgers as well would work on, or any kind of vegetable on the barbecue would work really well. Draw a sigil or a symbol onto your whatever you're cooking, flame it on the barbecue, and then eat it. Excellent ideas for it. Loving it. And now my stomach's rumbling. Sun water we talked about. That's really easy to work with. But sun magic as a whole all relies on the element of fire to drive it forward. There is a book on it, obviously. It's Pagan Portal Sun Magic, which has lots of information, working with all the different phases of the sun as well. There's sun gods, there's sun herbs, there's sun animals, there's all sorts. But that all relies on the element of fire. And that is the element that you're working with when you're working with the energy of the sun. On from the fire, what you're left with is ash. Whenever I have a ritual fire, I've got a fire pit chimney, a jobby in the garden. Be careful where you place it near the plants. Been there, done that. But if I'm working a fire on a particular Sabbath or a sun or moon phase for anything, I like to save the ash from the fire afterwards. I place a couple of scoopfuls of it into a jar, put a lid on, and I label it. I label it with the Sabbath, with the sun phase or the moon phase that I've particularly burnt that fire for. The ash can then be added to spells in the future, and it carries the energy of fire with it, but it also carries the energy of that Sabbath or that sun or moon phase with it as well. You can use ash to draw sigils or symbols on surfaces. You can add it to spell pouches. You can add it to witch bottles. You can roll your candles in the ash for candle magic. And you can also use it for divination, reading from the ashes of fire too. But it carries that fire element energy with it. And you can keep it and save it for later use. From that as well, charcoal. We just mentioned the good old charcoal discs. And they can be an absolute nightmare. But charcoal also that piece of charcoal also has the element of fire in it. Even on its own, before you've even done anything to it, it is the element of fire. Just carries it with it before you even light it. Once you light it, you kind of activate that energy. You activate the element of fire. You can cleanse with smoke, obviously. It's probably one of the most traditional ways of doing it. I associate cleansing with smoke as the element of air, but you have to have that heat first to do it. You have to have that fire to do it. So I think it aligns with fire as well, which again makes sense to me because fire is used for cleansing and purification. So if you've got the element of fire at the base of it all, it is going to cleanse and purify, which is essentially what you want smudging, cleansing with smoke to do. It's for curing, it's for purifying and cleansing and curing meat and food and things as well. But that's a whole other subject. Yes. Jason says, I like how the charcoal discs spark once they eventually caught fire. Yeah, and that's the element of fire in action. That's when you know it's ready to go. Annette says, it is the age of fire. What with global warming? Yeah, that's not a good sign of fire element, is it? Yeah. We do need to look after this planet of ours. We do need to be making some sensible decisions about it, don't we? Absolutely. But I also see cord cutting as a type of fire element magic. When you separate or distance yourself from someone that's no longer good for you, I see that as the element of fire. It involves transformation and change. Fire can also be used to burn the cord or petition in the ritual or the spell working as well. Kerry says, is a sage stick a combination of fire and air? That I think will depend on what herbs you use. I tend to I don't tend to use sage a lot, not white sage anyway, because it's not native to England. I tend to use sage from my garden. I use rosemary a lot, and rosemary is a really big fire element herb. So I quite often use sage and lavender, which is air, and rosemary as well. So you can actually make a stick of herbs that bring all of the elements together, which would work brilliantly depending on what herb you use. But yeah, it is a combination because you've got fire where you have to light it, and then you've got the smoke, which is fire and air, and you waft it about. So you've got air in there as well. So it's a combination of elements. The other thing that's interesting to work with is lanterns or torches. Before the advent of electricity, which doesn't even bear thinking about really, a lot of homes would have used oil lamps. They can be worked really effectively with in magic. Herbs, roots, drop or two of essential oil can be added to the reservoir of the lamp. You can also drop small crystals or minerals into the lamp as well. You can personalize the lamp to the intent of your spell, drawing sigils and symbols on it. You can add all sorts of natural oils to the oil reservoir. Please be very careful what you're adding. Don't add anything that's got chemicals in it, because not only will you gas yourself, you could also cause an explosion. So be careful with that. But actually working magic with oil lamps is really interesting. Petitions or name papers can be added and pinned to the wick of the oil lamp. You don't even need to use a ready-made oil lamp. You can make them from coffee tins, hurricane lamps. I've even seen them made from natural things such as coconut shells. Google it. You'll find all sorts of crafty things to do. But oil lamps make a really interesting magic to work with from the element of fire. You can even do similar things with modern lanterns and torches. It's just about thinking a little bit outside the box with that. But even if they're electric lanterns, they're still working on the element of fire. So obviously you can't burn things with them, but you can still bring in that element of fire with them. Emma says, I enjoy picking the right herb for the smoke. I used to smoke meats and veggies in my smoker. Fantastic. Cold smoking is great because of the candle fire. Smoking foods brings out amazing flavors. Sephora, one of my favorite things was the oil bubble lamps. Yes, where you could see it bubbling up different colors. Children of the 70s will know what I mean. Actually, my reflexologist has a lava lamp just to the side of where she does her reflexology. It's fascinating to watch it. Yeah, they are amazing things. Should bring them. Everyone should have a lava lamp. Incense, of course, we might think of it as air because it produces the smoke and the scent, but it is often used on an altar to represent the element of air. But I think it crosses over again with the element of fire. Whether you work with your own loose blends on the charcoal discs or incense cones or sticks, you've got to light it. You've got to put that flame to the incense. So you are sparking and igniting that element of fire. They wouldn't work otherwise. So I think incense kind of comes under the element of fire as well. Kerry says, are essential oils a fire element? I guess the base, because it's oil, would come under fire, but it will depend what herb or plant the actual essential oil has come from, because each of those will be its own particular element. So lavender oil is the element of air. Cinnamon oil would be the element of fire, because cinnamon is a fire plant. So it would depend on each different essential oil and what they were derived from. I also think of curses, hexes, and bindings as being fire magic. Whether you use them or not, knowledge about how curses and hexes work is being forewarned and forearmed. Knowledge is definitely power. But if you choose to work with that, then you are working, from my humble opinion, the element of fire, because you are bringing about change. You're bringing out quite a dramatic action or reaction. So for me, curses, hexes, bindings, they all come under the element of fire, as does banishing, I think, because you are making really, really big changes. You're banishing negative energy from your life. Please remember that banishing anything leaves a void, so you need to fill it with something positive. Whether you work with it or not is entirely up to you, but sex magic comes under the element of fire. Interesting thing to look at if that's your bag. It's passion, it's energy, it's personal power. Moonbooks does actually have a book on it, so do have a look on Moonbooks website if that interests you. Hearth magic. As a kitchen witch, this area is one of my favorites to work with. It's all about cooking, baking, brewing. It's about that creativity again. It's about using your oven, your fireplace, the heart and hearth of the home for all of your magic. And that's all based on the element of fire. The whole area of it is. And, you know, kitchen witchcraft is a whole other section as well. Horseshoes, very, very prominent in magic. A horseshoe is a very strong fire element. I think the whole blacksmith area is so magical. There is a Moonbooks book on blacksmith gods, actually, which is fascinating as well. But with horseshoes, you bring in iron. The whole making of it involves the element of fire. The same thing with iron nails that go into horseshoes. Very, very magical, and they bring the power of fire as well. So I'm coming close to finishing up time. If you've got any questions on the element of fire, pop them in the comments very, very quickly, and I will get to them if I can. Symbols of fire, if you want to represent it on your altar. Candle, we mentioned. Matches. I quite often, if I want the element of fire in a little spell bag, I will put just a match in there, because to me that is the element of fire, unlit, obviously. Chilies, black pepper, they're both really, really strong fire element things, as is cinnamon. A little bit of ash on your altar in a dish. Lots of crystals associated with the element of fire. Charcoal disc, we've mentioned. Lanterns, lamps, horseshoes, iron nails, they all represent the element of fire, and they can all be used on your altar to represent that too. Sephora, guessing gold is the jewelry for fire. Oh, absolutely. Jewelry, all kinds of jewelry carries different energies depending on what the stone is within it, but gold would, yeah, make sense, absolutely, wouldn't it? All kinds of symbols and representations for fire can be used. It's just how you see it. I'm wearing the solar cross today, which is a solar cross. So it is all about the sun. It's about splitting the earth into the world the year into 4 seasons, and it brings in the solar energy. For magical tools, the athame, the dagger, the knife, that is totally fire element. So you could put that on your altar to represent the element of fire as well. But again, it's up to you. It's up to how you feel and how you work with the different elements. But I would absolutely encourage you to have a look at what you do on a daily basis and how it relates to the elements. You might find that you're doing a whole load of fire elements, but not many air elements. If you want to bring about a bit of balance, that works really well. Annette, I see my cats more linked to fire. Interesting. They are fiery, spicy, and they lie in front of the fire. Dogs more earthy. Yeah, I would agree with that, Annette. That makes absolute sense to me. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. There's a lot of fire animals. But yeah, I'd go along with that, Annette. Thank you. So just have a think about it when you're going about your day. Obviously, you'll be spending the next 2 days in front of your computer watching MoonCon, which is totally fire element because you're watching the computer or the television and you are listening to creativity and inspiration. So you're going to be immersed in the element of fire for the next 2 days. So thank you so much for listening to me. You can watch replays of all of the MoonCon talks on the Moonbook Facebook page and YouTube channel. If you want to get hold of me, my links are on the Moonbook website, but my personal website is rachelpatterson.co.uk. You can find all of my events, all of my information on there, and lots of pre-recorded and live replay videos over on my YouTube channel as well. So do take a look. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Stay with us, stay on the page, and there'll be more talks up for the rest of today. Thank you so much, everyone.